read that and all set. We need a motion and a second to accept the auto engagement letter.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any public comment on CRC? No public comment. We're going to close the meeting for the CRC audit committee. Next, we got the CRC Capital Resource Corporation.
Motion to adjourn. Yeah, you did. Yes, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You made it, but you didn't.
Yes, okay.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, second. Lucio, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we are going to do the Columbia County Capital Resource Corporation meeting agenda. And again, the first thing on it is our minutes from October 5th, 2021. We need a motion and a second to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
Next, we have treasurer's report.
Yes, with respect to the Capital Resource Corporation, there's been no change in the treasurer's report. And basically, CEDC has budgeted to provide another grant to CRC to sustain its insurance, legal, and administrative costs for 2022.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion and a second for the treasurer's report.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Next, again, we have the auto engagement letter. Everybody look that over. We're going to need a motion and a second.
I'll make
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we got 2022 on the last page of the meeting schedule for next year. And again, we're going to need a motion and a second. So moved to accept. Accepted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Is there any public comment on the CRC? There is none. We need a motion and a second to close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
Okay. All right, now, moving right along. First thing we're going to do is the IDA Audit Committee agenda. And our first thing is the draft minutes for March 15th, 2021. Everybody's looked those over. If there's no questions, I'll need a motion and a second to accept.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Also, next we have the auto engagement letter also for the IDA Audit Committee. And again, we're going to need a motion and a second to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any public comments on the IDA Audit Committee agenda? There's no comments. We're going to need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Second.
I looked at you. All right. Now, we're going to open the IDA board. Okay, and again, the first thing we need to do is we have the draft minutes from November 2nd, 2021. Everybody's looked them over. Questions? I'll need a motion and a second to accept.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next, we have treasurer's report. We'll get there in 1 second. Mike?
Good afternoon, or good morning. We show assets of $71,809. $65,000 of that is in our cash accounts. We show current liabilities of $21,600, which is the escrow that the IDA is holding with respect to the pilot for project owned by 290 Route 9 Realty. And we also have long-term liabilities with respect to both the Hudson River Valley Holding Company loan parcel they purchased at the Commerce Park, and we do have to reconcile the LIMS negative account. You'll recall they paid off last December. So we did have the auditors in yesterday for a preliminary report, and we will review with them the appropriate treatment as to why that's a negative number. With respect to the balance sheet, are there any questions? With respect to the P&L, as you know, we have had income from the existing IDA projects for their annual administrative fee, and we do have administrative fee income from the Clock Estate sales tax closing. We have $40,000 of income against $63,000 budgeted. So we are below budget, but we do anticipate the balance of the Clock Estate fee to be paid this year. On our expense side, we have had $32,000 in expenses, primarily the administrative fee to CEDC, as well as legal and accounting and insurance costs, and we did have some consulting expense. We also had income and expenses that passed through with respect to the pilots for existing projects, but that's a net zero, $163,000, $3,000 out. So we have net income of $9,000. Any questions on the P&L?
Okay, no questions, and then need a motion in a second to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next, moving along, 2021 audit of engagement letter. We need a motion in a second to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got to plug the cord in to make it work.
Thank you, Michael.
I
Next,
wasn't giving up.
2022 meeting schedule, which is on the same as we just had on the other one, but it's on the back page.
Yep.
All the way on the back page, okay.
Motion.
Motion? Thank you. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have our administrative director's report, and we'll get into that, and then we'll do each. Oh, Mike will do it.
Well, thank you very much. Today we have several projects to discuss. The Clock Estates Distillery project, as well as a new application which was received, was distributed to you, as well as to the Town of Greenport supervisor, as well as posted on our website more than 24 hours in advance of this meeting. For 178 Healy Associates. It's a proposed 160-unit affordable housing project in the town of Greenport. And we have representatives from Redburn Development, the developer for the proposed project, who will make a brief presentation when the item comes up on the agenda. And we also wanted to share with you that the sale of the property in the Commerce Park on behalf of Columbia County, the Board of Supervisors did approve the transfer of the property to CEDC for sale at $90,000. Unfortunately, after the proposed purchaser completed their engineering and environmental studies, they determined that the size of the lot, after you subtracted out the wetlands, would not be large enough for them to build the size building that they were hoping to build. So the project is back on the market. The LIMS Machinery Group, as I said, paid off their loan, and they're finishing their building. They're hoping to have a ribbon cutting last month, but I believe there was some construction and material delays due to the COVID supply chain issues. And we continue to have conversations with Paul Harpus, who is a principal in Hudson River Valley Holding. That's the project that is on the balance sheet as an outstanding loan. And the IDA had given them an extension through 2021 to meet the requirement that they begin construction within a certain period of time due to COVID. So we will be looking in January as to having them report as to where they are with the project, but the loan is current. And I know they have been looking at either a variety of options, both for businesses that are related, their own related businesses, as well as other people who are interested in building in the Commerce Park.
That's June 22.
Right, June 22. So we'll have a discussion, start that discussion early so that we are in a situation where the board will be able to make a determination. There are a lot of projects underway throughout the county and throughout the city of Hudson. At this point, there are no other projects that would have indicated an interest in IDA financing, but we will keep you posted as more people bring their projects along the development line. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on, the next thing we have is we're going to go Clark Distilleries, the Drumlin Fields project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet and online is a draft resolution authorizing the execution of documents in connection with a leaseback transaction for the Clark Estates Holding Company project. As you know, this is a project that's on a 182-acre parcel on County Route 27. It will have buildings containing in the aggregate 20,000 square feet of space. There'll be other improvements to the land to include planting of an orchard and vineyard, and the acquisition and installation of various machinery and equipment on that land. This project has been under development by Drumlin Field, which then changed their name to Clark Estates for marketing purposes, and we have been working with the developer, John Frischkoff, for a number of years. A public hearing has been held on this project previously, and the agency did approve a resolution a couple of months ago to begin the authorization of the to commence the authorization of the use of the sales tax exemption on construction materials, and this resolution would approve would enable the developer to enter into a financing with respect to the project. I would defer to our counsel, Andy Howard, to see if there are any legal issues that he would like to address.
None at this time.
Okay, so what we have is the approving the resolution for Clark Estate Holdings, and again, that project's been going on. This has been about good 3 years, Mike?
Certainly, Mr. Frischkoff has demonstrated great tenacity in going through the whole COVID experience, and we're very grateful and pleased that the project is moving forward. There is a pilot agreement with this project, but it is not a deviation from our uniform pilot policy. And it's we're waiting for the assessor to complete the valuation of the project to finalize the pilot.
Okay. So without any further ado, we're going to need a motion and a second to accept the resolution for Clark Estate.
Roll call vote?
Yes.
Roll call vote, okay.
And there should be a question if there's any further discussion once the motion is made and seconded.
Okay. We're going to do a roll call vote.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
You need a second?
Second? Okay.
Any further discussion?
Oh, I just want to do that.
No.
You have to do that.
You gotta do it after you make the
Discussion
motion.
on it?
Yeah. Just for the, cause this is,
Yes.
yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Quick question for Andy, if I can. I'm the town of Culver councilman and have voted on certain things through that as well. So is there any conflict of interest for me voting on this?
I think at this point, there's nothing
Okay.
proceeding in front of the town.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, Lisa?
Nina Finger,
Yes.
Brian Keeler,
Yes.
Bob Lucio,
Yes.
Carmine Piero,
Yes.
William Gerlach, Sarah Sterling.
Yes.
We have 9 votes for, 1 absent.
Okay, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All set to go. Okay. Next,
Next, Mr. Chairman, we have the application of 178 Healy Associates in the town of Greenport. As I said, this is a proposed 160-unit housing apartment project. And you just give me 1 second here. We have Tom Rossi, who is a principal in Redburn Development. Redburn Development was also the developer of the Wick Hotel, which this agency assisted in its financing a number of years ago. Very successful project in Hudson. He's joined by Joe Bernacchi. We'll turn it over to Tom and Joe to make a presentation. And on our screen is a rendering sketch of their site plan. And if you could give us an update on where you are, gentlemen, it'd be helpful as well.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Tom here. I'll give a overall, and Joe will talk a little about the update with the planning board. One thing Mike did say before is this is market rate. This is not full. So, obviously we did the Wick Hotel and that's going really well. But most of the stuff we do is market rate workforce housing. When we say workforce housing, we mean apartments that rent between 80 and 130% of the county's area median income. So for this project, that means 1 bedrooms, starting in the high 11s, probably more like in the $1,200 a month. We have a pretty specific model where we need a certain density and parking requirements. And this site actually came to us from Phil Moldoff, who owns the Napa site, and his nephew was doing a project for us, whatever. So Phil was like, hey, we're looking at the site. Maybe you guys want to do apartments. And we actually, in the summer, met with Kathy and Ed from the town and just talked through the project and how we want to do. And they were very supportive. And Mike came to one of those meetings. Then we started putting things together. We got a little sidetracked, but we're finally in front of you guys. There's actually kind of 2 parts to the project. The application that's before you is only for the apartments. We may or may not do an application for the warehouse section. It has to be approved together, but there'll be 2 separate parcels. So for the apartment project, there'll be about 108 1-bedrooms and 53 2-bedrooms. Most of the, from our, metrics we look at and the needs we think we can fill and meet are mostly 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms. That's our folks that are, pre-home ownership window. Those are also the folks who are looking for a little bit of a smaller apartment. And, I think there's obvious, I think we all know there's a need for apartments in this immediate area. So I'll turn it over to Joe for an update on the planning. Go ahead, Joe.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, we had our first meeting with the County Greenport Planning Board last Tuesday.
went well overall. It was the board received the project well. Just a few items they recommended we work on. Traffic study, finalize some wetland stuff, and then stormwater, the SWIP plan. So we're going to take the month of December to finalize all those, and then probably return in January with hopes of approval either in January or February.
And I, to clarify my terminology, Tom and Joe, the county median income is approximately $68,000. So your range is, what did you say the percentage range was?
Yeah, well, based on that, we'll probably be in the mid to high 90% AMI across the board for this project. But if you ask me who are your renters and what was their salary, it's between 80 and 130%, which would be the $45,000 to $80,000, which is kind of the whole missing middle comments and or concept and folks who are looking.
I think 130% would bring it up to 90, but still, that's a certain segment of the county housing study several years ago showed that that was a market for rental units that didn't exist, and if they did exist, they were in substandard condition. And I think we've all seen that the COVID housing and price boom has further made it difficult for people, making that salaries and wages in that range. It was very difficult for them to find affordable housing, whether or not this is technically called affordable because of the way the government.
Yeah, it's not a
state. Yeah, it's not a state.
It's not a low income. It's not a 9% or 4%.
In reality, it will be affordable to people at a market rate that they can afford based on their salary, not based on government support.
Yeah, and that's when you do the 30% HUD rent burden test. So that's kind of how we actually look at the AMI of certain areas, and we say if we're going to do a project here, we don't want the rents to be above this 30% threshold for that AMI. And then if it works, great, and if it doesn't, it's not really a project we typically go after.
And we had a meeting with the county yesterday on housing with the chair of the Board of Supervisors, asking that CEDC become more active on behalf of the supervisors. And when we looked at the 30% test, there are more than 30% of the units or 30% of the people who rent in the county who are in that danger zone. In other words, they're paying more than 30% of their income, household income, not just the income of one resident of the apartment, for housing, which really makes it difficult for them to meet their other expenses when you consider the increase in food costs and particularly gas costs to get to work.
Just a question, what's the size of the apartments?
The question is, what is the square foot size of the units, roughly?
There's a range, but typically our one bedrooms are 600 or 700 square feet, and then the two bedrooms will be 800 to 900 square feet. We have a lot of experience building a little bit of a smaller unit. That a lot of the macro trends for the younger folks are they don't necessarily large apartments. We'll still do granite or quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances. Project will have it'll be stick frame, but we'll put gypcrete and tile on the floor. So it'll be a nice apartment, but a little bit smaller, and that's part of allowing us to rent for those numbers that are affordable and not urgent.
Well, the two bedrooms, you had said around $1,200 range on the one bedrooms. What were twos you going for?
Probably around $1,400-1,500, right, Joe?
As a comparable, yeah. I believe the one bedrooms for the falls are close to 2,000, and the other units are higher than that.
Well,
Joe, did you want to give any further updates from on the project?
No, I think Tom spoke to it well.
The benefits that the developer is seeking here consist of a mortgage recording tax exemption, a sales tax exemption on construct payment in lieu of tax agreements.
On the last page, you can bring that up, Mike.
Yeah.
Just all look at the last page.
If you go to 17, right? The bottom of 17. I guess.
The
Well,
last page
yeah.
in the
The
back.
pilot is the last
The
page.
pilot, yes,
right.
I'm sorry. The
But,
pilot.
The mortgage recording tax. I guess my question, gentlemen, for you was, you're a $22,500,000 estimated loan, right?
Yep.
And the mortgage recording tax you have at $2 million, or $225,000. Our recording tax here is at 1.25%. Do you want to amend your application to increase it to the full amount of the mortgage recording tax? Otherwise, we'll be limited in what we'll be able to provide you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely amend that. I think we expected a little bit of back and forth after the board reviewed it, so we can.
Right, but if we're going to go to a public hearing, we're going to have to lock
Sure.
that number in. So we can amend that to be 1.25%, which is $281,250.
Joe, you got that?
Yep.
And then you have $827,164 on sales tax divided by 8%. You're asking for a sales tax exemption on $10,339,550. Do you feel at this point that that's?
Yeah, I mean, our estimates from our construction company are about half the
Great.
construction
Okay.
costs at 8%.
And then-
I mean, that's always a little bit of a moving,
Right.
estimating that one.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to go to the pilot.
Yes, I just want everybody, if you look at the very last page, right now, the town of Greenport, the current taxes on that property are $14,919.29. In the first year of the pilot, taxes will be $90,181.64. Okay? That would be the pilot payment. So what I'm saying is, this is just the first year alone, there's an increase of roughly $76,000 to the town, to the school district. And then you can see basically it's another $20,000 a year. It goes up until the 16th year.
And as you're aware, Mr. Chairman, the agency is required to do a fiscal impact analysis. And we've also, as I mentioned, sent the application to the town supervisor for their input. And this is what the developer has proposed. To the extent that we move forward with a public hearing, if there are comments from any of the taxing jurisdictions or the public with respect to what has been proposed, or as a result of the fiscal analysis, the IDA wants to enter into a negotiation on the pilot, it would occur after the public hearing.
The only other thing I was going to bring up again on page 15, this is quite a project, and it's a big investment, and I think it's going to be a great project.
How many units is there again?
160. 160 units. So.
And when are they planning to?
What would your time schedule, gentlemen, be on construction if approval was achieved, as you said, in the first quarter with the planning board? Because we rely on the planning board for their secret.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would start in the spring, summer, depending on, conditions and financing and all that sort of stuff. But we would get started right away. I think the open question for us, there's three things that got to get figured out. Obviously, the approvals and the warehouses too. So I think we're obviously going to start the apartments as soon as possible. We may wait on the warehouses. We may do them concurrently. We still have to figure that part out. But the apartments will go as soon as we can possibly, as soon as we can reasonably do them.
And that, what would be the construction timeframe? 12
Something
months?
like that, 12, 14 months, depending.
Okay, so we're looking at fall, September, Labor Day.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's super important to kind of having these apartments come online late spring, summer. That's like the best time to rent. And then we typically see absorptions for these projects of 30 units a month. And then the goal would be trying to pre-lease one or 2 months ahead of completion and try to have this thing stabilized. I don't even know, October of that following year. Obviously things can happen. It can plus minus a couple months, but that's the general timeline.
The other thing that the developer is aware of, the agency does have a 1% fee. While it's not pulled out in any of the soft cost numbers, where that is an expense related to the project. Also, they're sophisticated, experienced developers who understand that the IDA council fees and any cost of studies related to the project are paid by the developer.
For the warehouse is separate application?
Yes, as you can see on the rendering, it's 7 flex warehouse units.
15, Mike, 15.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at 2 buildings, right? One building is 7, one is 8, and they're 22,500 square feet all told, which is a half an acre.
It's 1,500 square foot warehouse bays. One overhead door, one man door.
And we found that there's a demand for these in the context of people trying to do some lay down, some assembly, and some storage.
Yeah, we need that too.
Yeah, I mean, those will be 2 separate parcels. We have to go through the approval process, right, and planning to get that all done. But technically they're one project when you look at them from seeker, and just wanted you guys to be aware of it. We're not sure if we're going to bring that to the IDA or not yet, but wanted you to make sure you were aware.
Great. I believe that would qualify for our uniform pilot policy for commercial and industrial.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. I just wanted to.
Okay. Yeah.
And this parcel is just north of the Napa store, correct? I mean, it's between Napa and what is it, on Healy?
But Tom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in between the power lines and Napa. So we'll have an easement with, the town wants us to use the Napa entrance. So that'll just have to get reconfigured. There'll be some cross easements. But Phil's gonna be a partner in the deal too. So he'll still be.
That's Town Hall Drive up there.
Yes,
Top
yes.
right there.
yes.
Yep.
So you can see here, we're showing them on the map with an arrow where the curb, where you would come in, and the Napa store is right here.
Yep.
And you're not acquiring the parcel on the corner, is that correct?
No, someone else has that under contract.
Right.
I think they're doing. The word on the street is they're doing, self storage.
Right. Great. Any further questions for the developer before you consider authorizing a public hearing?
Anybody?
When was the public hearing?
That's what we're
I think we're going to have to look into that. We have a notice provision. We have to get letters out to the taxing jurisdiction, and we have holiday coming. So, with Lisa and I would have to coordinate that with Space and Claverick and with the developer and with the agency members. Agency members are not required to participate in a public hearing. We certainly encourage it. And if not, you can watch the video recording. And we do have to coordinate that with the town, the school district, and the county based on their response to the pilot. So
We're trying to get this done by the end of the year.
I think we would, well, yes, we have to, but I think to do today. So Lisa and I have not discussed the schedule, but we will get back with you in the next day or two as to how we think we might be able to plan it and get your input. And if it's acceptable to the agency, we can move forward.
Okay, so what we're gonna need is we have the resolution in front of you for the public hearing. And all the discussion, we need again, it's a roll call vote. So, just need to vote on authorizing the public hearing, which Michael set up and Lisa will set up. But we do want to, it probably will be before the end of the year. So, well, Lisa,
I'll make a motion.
make a motion. Make the motion
To take the vote.
to take the vote, yes. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? We're all set.
Aye.
Okay, Lisa?
Nina Finger Smith,
Yes.
Bob Galuccio.
Yes.
Bill Gerlach is not here. Brian Keeler,
Yes.
Mr. Puro,
Yes.
Sarah Sterling. Yes.
Okay, motion, resolution's accepted. We're all set. So, Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the agency.
Thomas Park, update.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
There was some question, as Lisa and I believe we had delivered the Commerce Park over the parcel still under ownership of the IDA. The county was not able to locate the documents, and we had the chairman re-sign them, and we'll deliver them today. As I mentioned, it's listed as SAD Development. That was the initial proposed purchaser of the remaining parcel in the Commerce Park. That deal went to, and the second proposed purchaser found the site not to be suitable for the size of its building. So that property will be remarketed for sale. LIMS is in the final stages of construction, and we'll be hoping a first quarter ribbon cutting. And Harpus and his partners, we should have listed them as one. There is a parcel that Harpus has acquired himself, but that's through the CEDC. And so the Hudson River Holding Company parcel, as the chairman indicated, is up for discussion and renewal of their agreement with respect to the extension previously granted that expires in June of 2022. So that's and the sewer line is don't know if it's operational, but certainly it's been installed. It'll address the Commerce Park issues that the county had with DEC with respect to the 35-year-old facility, which became functionally obsolete and was the subject of a DEC consent order to either replace or find this alternative of building a pipeline down to the Greenport Town Sewer Facility. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any public comments on today's meeting?
Let me just go back and see, Mr. Chairman. It would not, there are any members of the public on the call, but if there are, we'll give you 30 seconds to raise your hand. 30 seconds is a long time when you're waiting for the public, right?
Because you're doing the timer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's just hard because, if someone can't hit that mute button fast enough, like I often do, or you hit it twice because you think you're.
I know. We've all done it.
So, Mr. Chairman, 30 seconds have expired.
okay. No further ado, we need a motion and a second to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody.